All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. So, today, I do have a busy day. I'm going to try and keep this a little shorter. Sometimes I do go on for quite a bit. But today, I actually wanted to talk about just things we can control because this really kind of dives into pretty much all areas of our life. Our anxiety is really worrying about the future, worrying about things we can't control. I mean, anxiety is also kind of creating problems and creating issues that don't exist because it is, worrying about the future. And a lot of times we just make stuff up. Um, but a lot of that anxiety, whether we're making it up or not, is because we're so worried about these things we cannot control. And from living in high anxiety, high stress, high overwhelm, all of these things, control is a survival mechanism we use to get through the day. So it's kind of like, because everything is so chaotic, we're so overwhelmed, there's just so much stuff everywhere. Our survival tool is to become control freaks. And so we try, that's why we micromanage. That's why we just, always pointing everything out. We're the world's worst passengers. Um, these are all things because we're trying so hard to control. It's like grasping at straws of anything we can try and control to help lessen the overwhelm that we're feeling. Unfortunately, this just makes everything worse because then we get so controlling that everything has to be done our way at the time we say it has to be done, yada, yada, yada. And when other people don't live up to our expectations or don't get it done immediately or do it the exact way we need it done, even though it can be done 10 different ways and still be done correctly, it causes more stress and more anxiety. And also, we're like, oh my God, I just have to do everything myself. This all comes from control issues. So, really just give that a little food for thought. If this is you, you find yourself, you're micromanaging, you're that person that's like, whatever, I'll just do it myself. We are causing our own issues. It's like setting yourself up to fail. You ask someone to do something, but already they're not going to do it properly the way you think it should be done. And you're already, prepping yourself basically to be upset about it and have to do it yourself anyway. And then when that does happen, you put yourself in victim mode. Poor me, I should have never asked you. In the moment, we use that anger to shield ourselves from realizing we're being a victim and we're literally saying, poor me, I have to do everything myself. But that is what happens. So, getting back to the control, this is why, if we can just start realizing, have that one little thought in our head of, can I control this? Like, is this something that needs to be controlled? Oh, my dog is having a fit. Okay, sorry if you can hear that. Hopefully not. But really think about, like, for example, I'm terrified of flying. I hear this is because I have a control issue, but I get quite concerned. I basically, we leave the runway and I basically wait to die. And so I end up like getting my liquid courage in me and all that good stuff. But I've come to realize over the amount of times that we have flown that I am choosing to get on the plane. I have purchased the ticket. I want to go to the place. And how am I going to get there? I've chosen to fly. Therefore, I've made my choice and now I have to live with it. And just that simple recognition in itself actually calms me down a ton. I'm still kind of scared where I'm going to die because I don't trust planes, but I can't do anything about it. I have made my choice. Now I have to deal with the outcome. And if the outcome turns out to be horrible, well, oh well, what am I going to do about it? That doesn't mean I want it. That doesn't mean I'm wishing for it by any means. But it means, instead of being like just so tense and freaking out and being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can now go on the plane, hook up, watch a movie, maybe even fall asleep. If we hit turbulence, jacks my anxiety right up again. But again, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. If something's going to happen, it's out of my control. So I need to be okay with it because I've chosen this, right? And So if my anxiety on a plane used to be like a 9, it's now probably more around a 4 or a 5. I'm not going to pretend it's a 1 or a 2 by any means, but it's still drastically lower. So these are the things we really want to accomplish, because also remember, everything is a journey, everything is a progress. So I think it's amazing I can get on a plane and have my anxiety at a 5 instead of a 9. I think that's the biggest win in the world, especially for my boyfriend, because Lord knows I probably drove him nuts when I was at a 9. But it's one of these, again, all these little steps are very meaningful, and they all really add up to that big progress. So never dismiss those little tiny steps you do make and those little tiny progress. It's all super meaningful. And especially when you're coming from that place of high stress, high anxiety, high overwhelm, a small step for us is really, really huge. Letting go of a little bit of control is really big for us, because we have learned to survive by controlling everything. So, by admitting and actually choosing to release some of the control, you're actually putting more trust in life, being like, I trust that I'm not going to die, even though I'm not taking control of this action, right? Because it's our survival mechanism. And the reason I do want to bring this up also, because again, all the different ways in life it controls us. So, being that typical women, we tend to be the world's worst passengers, like, oh my God, the brake lights. And I see all the memes of people making fun of, like, oh, I hope my husband sees those brake lights like a kilometer up ahead and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I should just let him know they're there, like little things like that. And I think a lot of us do it. I know just last week I got yelled at for saying something. And this comes from that control issue. We're trying to do the side seat driving. We're trying to control how they drive. But at the end of the day, you chose to be a passenger. So now you need to live with the consequences. So it's just that, working on biting your tongue, working on like, okay, I've driven with him for 10, 20 years. We haven't died yet. I'm probably going to be fine. Things like this, right? Now, when we move into relationships, workplace, whatever it might be, I hear a lot of people talking about um, like things at work. For example, my mom, there's this really horrible lady that started working at their travel agency, and she is conniving and she is sneaky and she is not honest. She takes, so little backstory. When you have a walk-in coming into the store, you get like person A gets walk-in 1, person B gets walk-in 2, person C. Like, so you distribute the walk-ins evenly and everyone has a chance to make money and get new clients. This lady tries to take all of the walk-ins and she'll come up with excuses and she'll come up with ways, and then she doesn't tell people she's taken them. And so she tries to steal other people's clients. Like, she's just not a good human being from what I hear. I don't want to judge her personally. I don't know her. I've never met her, but apparently, 3, 4 different people are all saying the same thing. So odds are it's probably true. And at the end of the day, we cannot control her. Nobody, my mom can't control her. Nobody in the office can control what she does. The owner obviously would have to be the person that's going to get rid of her, tell her to stop doing it, like reprimand her, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you can't physically wrestle her, tie her to the chair to stop her stealing walk-ins. Like what are you going to do about it? So what can you do? Well, you can go to the owner, you can voice your complaints, and you can say your piece, essentially, right? You can do those things. But it's kind of like when I talk about when I prepared for the hurricane, right? Do what you can do to solve the problem. Tell the owner, maybe you tell her, listen, that's really unprofessional. You shouldn't do that. We know what you've been doing. Depending how comfortable you are with confrontation, that may or may not be an option. But have you done everything you can to solve this problem? And then after you have, then it'll be what it'll be. And then you just have to decide, okay, is it going to get better or not? Do I have a cutoff line where I move agencies and I go somewhere where they actually enforce proper etiquette and rules? But if you choose to say nothing, you choose to stay, all of these things, then you make your choice and you're saying that this behavior is acceptable. And even if you've gone to the owner and he chooses to do nothing about it, again, you can stay and put up with it, or you can move and go somewhere else. But you have to also understand that these are your choices. Because I see, like, so often, I hear this so much all the time the past couple of years. It's like our new favorite saying in Western society: oh, I have no choice, but I have to. There is always a choice. Sometimes your choices are really crappy, but there's always a choice, right? So it's kind of like you can't complain about it if you're not doing anything about it, because then you're just being a victim. You're being the poor me, give me attention, ooh, my life sucks, blah blah, whatever it might be, right? And that's what we want to avoid. It's like the kids when they act out in a negative manner to get attention. We all know we're not supposed to give them the attention because it reinforces the negative behavior. So if you play the victim, if you play the poor me, and you're doing it to get that attention, and people, of course, sympathize. We all want to be nice human beings, and that is garbage. That is nonsense. And then you get the reinforcement of like, yay, I'm getting the attention I want from being a victim and from being poor me. Then you want to do it more. So that's why it's so important to catch yourself and not let yourself fall into that routine, because that's where you get stuck. And then you actually, where that leads, letting yourself be the victim, enjoying being the victim, enjoying getting all the attention from being the victim, the poor me, my life is so bad, here's all the things wrong. Just smother me with all the accolade, or not, I guess it would be accolades. It would be pity and, validation of how hard your life is. Then you actually create situations to be a victim in. It's like, well, I can't. Well, whatever. It's the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head is if you sit there and you eat fast food, 20 cheeseburgers a day and a Dairy Queen ice cream every day, and then you cry about being overweight and large. I'm sorry, stop eating the Dairy Queen and the burgers. So you're creating the problem that you're crying about later. That's where being in that victimhood, loving being poor me, my life is so horrible. That's where it leads. You actually create your own problems to complain about. And then your life is literally nothing but misery, because that's what you've come to actually enjoy, because you're getting attention from it. This is why it's very, very dangerous to even allow yourself to, I don't know what the right word is right now, but like being coddled for a bad situation. I mean, I think it's good. You always want to empathize with people, but then it's problem solving. Yeah. Okay. That does suck. That is really garbage. She should not steal clients. What are you doing about it? Right? You want to empathize, of course. You don't want to just be this cold, horrible, unfeeling person. But then it's like, all right, what are we doing? How are we going to fix this? Because you don't want to live with this problem. Nobody wants to live with a problem, right? You either accept it and be quiet about it, don't complain, or we're fixing it, we're doing something about it. So those are basically the two options. And this again goes back to, what can you control? If you can't control the person, but you can control, again, saying something to the owner or whatever, saying something to her perhaps. And again, don't be polite, manners, etiquette, all the nice things. You don't want to create another problem. Or maybe you start looking for somewhere else to work. How are you going to solve this problem? But if there's nothing to solve, then you have to accept it for what it is. Or if you choose to not change it, to not solve it, then you accept it for how it is and you carry on with your life. And this is a big thing. I find, especially, we all have families, and I talk about this a lot at the holiday season because we have a lot of relatives that come over. I hear a lot of people, whether they have an older grandparent or maybe a great grandparent, that have controversial views, and they're not going to change, and they say some things that's like, oh, you can't say that, but they've always said it, they're always going to say it. And it's that you cannot control what people say or what they do. You can only control how you react. That's our choice. You can choose to react emotionally and yell and make a scene and make everything worse and just create more chaos and misery and all of the things. Or you can choose to be like, oh, Gigi, you are just You are just you. Look at you and kind of brush it off and not take it in, not be offended, not make a scene. And it's one of those things, is that fight worth it type thing, right? Is this confrontation really what you want? Is it appropriate? Do we want to choose that, right? Because again, we cannot control what other people do or say. We cannot control a lot of things. The only thing, sorry guys, totally forgot to plug my laptop in. That is on me. There we go. The only thing we can ever truly control is ourselves, how we choose to respond to a situation, how we choose to, treat other people, how we choose to respond to our own choices, like getting on a plane. If I'm going to choose to fly, well, I can't be up there crying and screaming about being on a plane when I bought the ticket and I willingly boarded the plane, right? I need to suck it up. I need to deal with it myself. I made my choice. So I hope this all makes sense. I hope you're really getting it. This is a big thing, kind of taking control of those emotions, not letting them run away with us. And why this is so important is, number one, again, it affects pretty much every area of our life. When we're driving, we can't control other drivers. We're at the workplace, we can't control our coworkers or our boss. Our relatives, we can't control what they do or say. Life, we can't control the weather, we can't control the animals, we it's life. We can only control how we choose to respond and what we choose to say and do. That is it. And once we accept that and we worry more about, hey, okay, this happened. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to say about it? When we focus on what are my actions going to be, instead of like, oh my God, it's raining. Oh my God, that car over there. And we worry about everything else. That's where all the stress is. We're putting all our energy into things we can't control, we can't change, and we're creating all that chaos. Whereas we control ourselves. I'm not going to let that person who's being stupid, who just cut me off, ruin my day, make me angry, and I'm going to carry around all that negative energy all day long. No, I'm going to be like, dude, you need to learn to drive. Brush it off. My day is still amazing because I'm not letting that person take my happiness. I'm not giving my energy, my positivity, my joy to that person. I'm keeping it because I deserve it, because I deserve to be happy, and I'm going to carry on with my day. I hope this is all making sense. I hope I've explained it really well. Once we can get this, start really understanding this and start really using this and living it. Stress is just giving our energy everywhere else and allowing everything to control us, because we're trying to control it and we're taking everything in and we're not choosing those proper responses. We're allowing ourselves to react, right? Anxiety, again, it's throwing our energy into things we can't control, worrying about things that aren't happening instead of coming inward, focusing on us. What am I doing? Is there something I need to worry about right now? Is there an actual problem right now? And if so, we're going to turn that worry, flip it. Okay, how am I going to solve this? Right? So really, when we can start, really realizing I'm in control of me and I am the only thing I can control, but taking responsibility for our actions, naturally, a lot of this stress and anxiety really starts diminishing and going away. That, like, anxiety is the big one here. When you realize you cannot control, basically anything, the things around us, and you can only control yourself, and you have to own up to your choices and take that responsibility. The majority of your anxiety is just, it's like that plane. I used to be a 9, now I'm probably a 4 or a 5, because knowing I'm making my choice and I have to live with it and everything else will be what it'll be, anxiety is way down. So this is why it's so important to really, it really impacts everything and really brings that stress and anxiety right down. So, all right, guys, leave me some comments. Definitely, if you don't already, follow me, subscribe to me, do all those button clicky things. And I'm on every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as always, it is Thursday, which means it's pretty much